Well, what a day for Virat Kohli. He ends his long century drought, bringing up his 28th Test century. What a day for the great man. What a day for the king. I'm Andrew Mensel. Welcome to Cricket Unfiltered. I'm joined by Paul Dennett. Wow, Paul, Virat Kohli has finally done it again.
G'day, Minners. G'day, everyone. Look, we'll get to that, I think, but I sometimes object when I'm watching a game of the Australian soccer team playing, when the commentators get a little bit too focused about the opposition and give us the backstory of various different players. And I kind of want a bit of a biased call because I'm so keen for the national side to do well. And I feel a little bit that way today. And so my answer is, right off the top of the podcast, let's not talk about Kohli. Let's talk about what a bloody miserable day that was for Australia and how all our hopes have evaporated of 2-all, and only a miracle could see us get 2-all now. And I'm depressed and I'm sad, and I want you to be sad as well.
No, I'm not sad. I'm happy. I'm happy we saw a Virat century, and I actually think the Australians did bloody well today. They didn't drop their heads. At one stage, Patel and Kohli looked like they were going to take the game away from us, but then Patel gets out, and there's a bit of a collapse, and Australia didn't concede a lead. I thought Todd Murphy was exceptional today to bowl 46 overs and go at 2.5 and over when Virat Kohli makes almost 200. I think he's a real find. So, look, I think this was our fear that it was a flat deck and India would make big runs. But I'm really happy with the way the Aussies stuck with it. And I just thought it was a good day's cricket.
I admire your positivity. I really do. Are you okay? I'm just wondering if you are you in denial or something? The way you talked about it then is as though, India's had a collapse. The Australians bowled really well. We've got them on the ropes. Tomorrow we're going to finish them off.
No, I mean, we only conceded a 91-run lead, and which is not that much. I thought it was going to be a 200-run lead the way Patel and Kohli were going. And then we'll probably bat out tomorrow pretty comfortably. We didn't lose a wicket before stumps today. Normally, two has gone by, would be three for at stumps in those 6 overs. So all in all, considering how well Kohli batted, I thought Australia fought well, and I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of Steve Smith's men.
Oh, I think Australia always fight well. There's never a question about the effort. I'm always happy with the effort level, and I'm always bemused when some people, not you, but others at the start of this series were saying that the reason Australia was down 2-0 was they lacked kicker and they lacked courage and all that sort of nonsense. They always give it their all. But the day began with a possibility, albeit less likely than other options, of Australia having a great day and moving into a position where they could still level the series. The day ends with...
Did you watch yesterday?
Yeah, I said it was unlikely, but I said there was still a possibility that, whether it was 5% or 10% or whatever else, that Australia could have had a really good day today and put themselves in a position of leveling the series. That has gone from, let's say it was a 10% chance at the beginning of today, it's now a 1% chance. And the only way Australia could win would be through some bizarre calamity where Australia collapsed for 200 and then India collapsed for 100. It's not going to happen. So I think that what I'm sad about is that although it seemed very likely at the beginning of today's play that the best Australia could hope for was a 2-1 series loss, that has now crystallised. And for all the fact that, we've got some players for the future and everyone held their heads up and everyone didn't, feel, despondent, I'm sad because earlier on in this match, it looked very likely that Australia had a chance of levelling the series 2-all, and I think that would have been a fantastic achievement.
Oh, well, you wear your heart on your sleeve, big fella. I get it. Sometimes I can fall prey to that as well, but I'm just enjoying the ride in this one because, I thought Australia was going to lose the series 4-0, so everything's a bonus. But early on, let's get into the actual action from today. India started the day 3 for, and then they lost Jadeja pretty early on. He went for 28, and he was out to Murphy, sort of spooning one to Khawaja mid on a pretty meek dismissal, and Kohli didn't look happy.
Yeah, although I you can look at it two ways. One, India, barring a miracle from Sri Lanka, now that they potentially could win the first test against New Zealand, uh, but then they'd have to win the second test as well. Barring that happening, all that India need to do to win the series is to draw this match, and therefore they'd win it 2-1. But I think that India probably could have been more aggressive throughout today, and that maybe Jadeja was slightly reckless with that shot because he tried it 3 times in the over. The first one he hit for 4, one he almost got caught, and then he eventually did get out. So I think that there was some justification in some aggression, but maybe not quite as recklessly as that. So I thought it was a little bit curious that India were fairly passive through much of the day, but then they really did accelerate as the day went on.
Yeah, then the keeper Barrett came out and he made a nice 44, but before being caught by hands coming off the bowling of Nathan Lyon, who became the leading wicket taker for spinners for overseas spinners in India, going past Derek Underwood. So that was quite an achievement.
Magnificent achievement. I've always been his biggest supporter, always been a loyal fan of Nathan Lyon. And they never contemplated dropping him from the side.
Yeah. So in that first 2 sessions, Matt Kuhneman didn't bowl a lot. Cameron Green, he tried to bowl a bit of short stuff. And I mean, his figures, 18 overs, none for 90 at the end of the day. He went for 5 and over. It just didn't really work.
It was a terrible tactic. And I mean, people sometimes say, oh, yeah, when nothing's happening, get on and bowl a few short balls and ruffle things up. I never am a huge fan of that tactic. I don't think it works very often. But this time, he bowled, I think, 12 short balls out of 13 because one of them was a no ball. And at one point, Barrett hit him for 6, 6 and 4. I just think that was not the percentage play. I think Australia would have been far better off. And I was a little bit irritated. There was a point a little bit later where Axar Patel was batting against Lyon, and they're all playing reasonably defensively. He got one that hit the inside edge, crashed into the pad, and there was no one in close on the leg side. All they had was a slip and sort of one other catching fielder. But, I think it was at that time when India were 61 behind us still and I think 5 out. That was the time that they needed to say, if we are going to have any chance of doing anything in this game, and especially the best chance of avoiding defeat in this game, now is the time to really be aggressive and try and get a few wickets. So rather than bowling a mindless barrage of short balls, I think they'd have been better off having a few close-in fielders and trying to back up the excellent quality of bowling that Nathan Lyon was putting in. I think that was... I don't think that Smith was brilliant tactically today, albeit on a very difficult day.
I thought Smith was excellent. But
now you can't just... I mean... Are we going to actually have a serious conversation about this, or you're going to just always defend him because of your perceived annoyances about Cummins and the fact that Langer was removed and your annoyance? You can't just one line say, "Oh, I thought Smith was excellent," and then move on.
I thought he was today. I don't mind that tactic of trying a few short balls. They probably went with it for a bit too long, but I thought actually the field settings were really good. And for much of the day, India didn't score that quickly. It wasn't until that partnership at the end that they really scored quickly. So I thought Smith had a good day.
I think we just needed more catches in place, and we needed to say, unless we do something quite special, then most likely the outcome is going to be what we've had, where they eventually overhaul us and we're going to be backs to the wall in the second innings. If we have a few aggressive catches in place, then maybe we've got a chance of doing something.
So Jadeja went, but then Kohli brought up the century. It ended a 1,206-day century drought. It was his 8th Test century against Australia in Test cricket. He equals Sunny Gavaskar and he's 3 behind Sachin Tendulkar. His 100 came off 241 balls, and it was his 28th Test ton and his 75th international ton for India. So it's an incredible record. It's amazing it's been so long between Test centuries when you think about it.
Yeah, it is, because he's only 34, and although he doesn't seem to be quite the player that he was a few years ago, I don't think, to me anyway, it doesn't look like he's in a decline. It's just that he's maybe tapered off slightly from the incredible form that he was in. Yet to go that long without a century was quite peculiar. It's going to be interesting to see what his output is over the next couple of years. Will he be kind of back to his very best, or is this a sort of an aberration on a decline? I don't think it is an aberration. I think he is going to continue to be one of the best players in the world for a few years to come, at least.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think it might. Now that he's got over that hurdle of scoring the first one in so long, I think we might see a few more, and it makes me kind of nervous about the World Test Championship final because if India make it, he's just a match winner in any condition. So, yeah, huge inning from him. He ended up making 186, and he was the last man out. But there were a couple of half chances. Green dropped Kohli. After he scored his century, and then Smith next over dropped a sort of half chance off Axar Patel offline. So, things didn't really go Australia's way. And, when Patel and when Patel and Kohli got going in their 162 run partnership, it looked like India could stretch the lead to 150 plus and then be bowling at us with most of tomorrow.
Patel, once again, 79, blasting the ball to all parts. It's just been a very amazing test series for him, who he's barely featured with the ball, and yet he has been India's dominant batsman of the series. It's one of the big separators between the sides has been their lower order batting, headed by Akshar Patel. Congratulations to him. He probably deserved 100 at some stage throughout the series. Eventually, Stark got him dragging on, saying a sort of a cover drive at one that maybe kept a little bit low, and he was out for 79. But another fine knock.
Yeah, and then I think Hanscom dropped a tough one in the outfield off Kohli, diving away. But Ashwin was the next out, caught by Kuhneman off the bowling of Lyon. And Ravi Shastri in commentary was quite critical of the shot. What did you make of it?
No, I had no problems with it. I think that I think things have turned out reasonably well for India. I mean, they didn't have Shreyas Iyer, who's had back pain, so they missed one of their premium batters. He could have extended things on a little bit more. But I think that ultimately, with the situation that they're in, that they have a lead of, what was the lead? 91. That's not too bad for India, because it would take Australia the best part of 2 sessions tomorrow to get to a point where India could be thinking, oh God, even if we bowl them out now, we might struggle to win. So I think it's actually turned out reasonably well for them, and I thought that it was the right time for Ashwin to play that sort of shot. I'm not sure what Shastri's on about.
Yeah, I guess it just sort of left Kohli, stranded a bit for his double 100 because, as you say, Iyer couldn't bat. So Umesh Yadav was run out with a direct hit from Peter Hanscom running in from the outfield. Kohli trying to turn a 1 into a 2. So great bit of fielding from Hanscom. So he was out for a diamond duck. And then Kohli was the last man out, caught in the outfield for 186 off the bowling of Todd Murphy. Yeah, fine innings by Kohli. Patient. His strike rate was just over 50, so he wasn't too slow. And I think he saw that pitch and thought, this is my chance to really cash in. And he certainly did. The bowling, I mean, I sort of said Todd Murphy, I thought he was excellent. Mitchell Stark, 22 overs, 1 for 97. I got the big wicket of Patel. But apart from that, it was Nathan Lyon, really, 65 overs, 3 for 151. He did the bulk of the work and kept the runs down at 2.3 and over. And without him, we would have probably conceded a much bigger lead.
Yeah, Nathan Lyon bowled superbly. I think that Mitchell Stark it probably shows, it puts into context, I think, a little bit of the bowling of Pat Cummins earlier in the series, that a lot of people were saying that he had a shocker. Well, I mean, Stark has been just as ineffective on these pitches as Cummins was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty. I don't think any pacemen have had a happy series in the end from the Australians. So yeah, 1 for 97 for Stark, and then Usman Khawaja had gone off the field with a sore back, and he didn't open. So Matt Kuhneman and Travis Head came to open, and they had 6 overs to see out. Um, that I thought that was actually fine to send Kuhneman out there. I didn't have a problem with it.
Just back on Stark, so he's taken 2 wickets at an average of 66 in the series, and Cummins took 3 wickets at an average of 39.6 in the series. So for all this talk of the greater airspeed, and I know that Stark has had to perform on one pitch that was really difficult, but I think that does need to be stated, that maybe we would have been better off going in with another batter rather than bothering with the quick at all. I thought did Khawaja injure his back in that fall? I thought he'd injured his knee.
Oh, his knee. No, his left knee. Sorry, I was getting confused with eye. Yeah, in that dive.
That was really disappointing when that happened. I was a bit annoyed that the commentators didn't focus. They didn't seem to be bothered by it. Like I was devastated by it, because you never know with those sorts of falls can look innocuous, but can put the player out for a period of time. I hope he's going to be okay. Have we got any prognosis?
No, I haven't heard anything, but I hope he can bat.
Yeah, the fact that they open with Kuhneman just cracks me up. Doesn't bother me, but it's just such a cricketer's way of thinking. I can imagine, we didn't want to disrupt the batting order, so we thought we'd bring a bowler up, and that way, Labuschagne gets to stay at 3, and Smith gets to stay at 4, and Mercury's moving into the new moon of Jupiter, and that tarot card does this. It's just superstition. It's fine. They were lucky. Kuhneman got dropped by Barrett, and he also almost got caught in close off a short one from Shami. But yeah, I've got no problems. This is what Greg Chappell did with Kerry O'Keefe in the Centenary Test in 1977. I think it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm a bit like you. If they'd have sent Labuschagne out there to open with Head, I would have thought that was fine too. I think it shows just that little bit of nerves that the Australians have, though, that they were sort of, had that underlying fear of losing one of their big guns tonight. So, yeah, carrying a few scars from past Indian tours, I think. So,
yeah, but that's that would only be true if they would have done this if Khawaja had been fine. Openers always sort of say, how come openers never get to get a night watchman? Well, if they're going to do it, they should have gone the whole hog and opened up with bloody Lyon and Kuhneman.
Maybe. So Australia head into day 5, 88 runs behind with 10 wickets in hand. We've got a few questions in the chat, Paul.
Before we just get to them, I've got one thing.
Yes.
I'm not criticising them for what they did in those 6 overs, because I understand when the 6 overs go, human nature is let's just get through to stumps. But 6 overs and none for 3, if they come out with the same defensive mindset tomorrow, then that's dangerous. It still might work for them because the pitch is that flat, although it's starting to take there's a few balls that are keeping low, and there are a few balls that are spinning. It will probably continue to get a little bit harder on day 5. But if they come out and say, we've just got to bat and occupy the crease and don't look to score, I think that's a really dangerous situation. We talked about what England did in Adelaide in 2006. They came out and looked to occupy the crease, and Shane Warne bowled them out around about just after lunch, and they cruised to the victory. So I just think that, yes, as I said, Australia's chances of winning this game realistically are all but gone. And they are gone. I'm just, weird things happen in sport. 1 in 1,000 things can happen. So I just want to always cover myself against that eventuality. But they've got to play some decent shots tomorrow and get that lead knocked away, and then start to put the game out of India's reach.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's their best way of getting to safeties. Travis Head has a good first session and they get in front, then Indian heads will drop and it'll peter out to a draw. So let's get to the questions. Monty Francis, assuming we play India in the World Test Championship final, do you think we, Australia, will win it? Do you think it will truly show who the better team is? Paul.
Very good question. Let me just preface that by saying I think that if we get out of this series 2-1 down, it will actually give that match a little bit more legitimacy in the eyes of some fans. Because if Australia had lost 4-0 to India and then had gone, and if we had two test matches similar to the first two in matches 3 and 4, and then had gone to the Oval and, let's say, for argument's sake, had beaten India, lots of Indian fans would have said, well, that's ridiculous. After having been obliterated by India in India, it's a bit silly that on the strength of one match, they then become the World Test champions. Now, of course, that's the format. It's not a perfect format. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, to try to drag Test cricket into a format that produces a final. So in answer to the question, I think I would have Australia starting as narrow favourites at the Oval, assuming that it's a sort of a typical Oval pitch where there's going to be, it's not a bad wicket usually, the Oval. It's good for batting, it's good for bowling, and there's a bit of spin on offer as well. I think Australia might start as slight favourites, but it would be very 50-50. They'll have the 6th day available in the case of bad weather, so we really should get a result. And I think that whichever side wins it, you're still going to have people saying, well, it's not ideal. But that's the case in World Cup soccer. The best side doesn't always win the World Cup. And I think that this is probably a pretty good way of deciding it. Now, I've forgotten, did I answer the question, or did I just go off on a mad tangent?
No, you did. You did. Well, he sort of asked, will Australia win it? I mean, you certainly, I'll jump in there. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a very, very good contest because, if it is early summer in England and the ball's moving around, that'll bring the teams closer together. India has a fantastic pace attack. It's easy to forget on these spinning decks. So, it's going to be a great game. And I agree with you. Australia probably slight favourites, but really not by much. Amit M, this is an extremely timid Australian team. Sending Kuhneman ahead of the batsman is a cowardly approach. Oz deserved to lose the series 3-1. Pretty harsh there, I think, Paul.
Well, as I said, that's exactly what they did in the centenary Test match of 1977, and they did that because Rick McCosker had his jaw broken. And they sent Kerry O'Keefe out to open the batting back in the pre-helmet days. You couldn't get less cowardly than that, and the Australians are just imitating that technique. So, yeah, they're the opposite of cowardly. It was extremely brave to send Kuhneman in.
Sam Hickey, one thing about Smith's captaincy that I don't like is that he doesn't bowl himself or Marnus enough. Well, I think that's just a result of having 3 spinners and 2 quicks. There's not much room for the part-timers. Might have been good to see Marnus a bit more. I don't think Smith is going to bowl much. He said in a press conference he's got a dodgy back. So, but maybe Marnus, we probably didn't see enough of him, Paul.
Yeah, I agree. And I understand that when you're going with 3 spinners, then the minute you throw the ball to the 4th or the 5th spinner, you open yourself up to criticism of what is going on. But I think that it was a pity that Travis Head only got a bowl when India were 3 for 7,000 and that Labuschagne didn't get a bowl at all. I think that they do present a different style of bowling, different angles, different spin, and you don't have to give them an enormous number of overs. But I think that you need to give them an opportunity earlier on because Marnus Labuschagne took that second last wicket that helped Australia reclaim the Ashes in 2019. Travis Head took some key wickets in recent Test matches, including in Sri Lanka. You can usually find out within a couple of overs whether they're going to do much, and I think they should have given them a ball. And and Smith himself, if he's got a bad back, then absolutely he shouldn't bowl. But even his bowling, he got that wicket against England that almost in the Sydney Test match that was a draw in 2 summers ago when England were 9 down. He got that 9th wicket that almost got us the win.
Now, an interesting theme in the chat has emerged. Superdeep started this off by throwing out there that should Australia take a Bazball approach to tomorrow and go for the win, Paul, try and, smash their way to 200 in front, an hour before tea and try and bowl India out. I mean, you were, so heartbroken at the top of the show about Australia's chances. Do you think they should just throw everything at an unlikely win?
It'd be entertaining if they did. It would be. I think that it would be good for them to be aggressive, and that's their best way, as you said, of sort of putting the game, taking all the sting out of the game. That if they come out and play the way that they played tonight, which, as I said, was fine for tonight, but if that's the way they play tomorrow, then half an hour, an hour and a half goes by, no wickets have fallen, but no runs have been really scored. Then 2 or 3 wickets fall, the pressure gets on, and India can go ahead and win it. Realistically, what would they have to do? They'd have to go at 6 and over if they got 100 and maybe not 6 and over, 5 and over, got 150 in the first session so they're leading by 60 odd, and try and do the same in the second and then send them in. I think it's a bridge too far. I think that it would just as much as I'd love to say yes, you could also make the argument, well, they're going to lose it 2-1, they might as well lose it 3-1. But I don't know. I don't think that that's taking into account the physical toll as well. After 4 days, you don't want to throw it away too lightly.
No, and I think the pitch is holding together so much that even if you had, say, 40 overs in India, it wouldn't be enough. So, you're kind of just opening the door for them to maybe snatch a win that you're probably just handing to them on a platter. I do like the thinking, though. It just shows how this stupid Bazballs has poisoned the brains of some cricket fans.
Wait a minute. There's nothing stupid about Bazball. Bazball, it might be a stupid nickname, and people might not like that it's being referred to too often. But at its heart, all it is him saying, let's play this game in an aggressive way. And the result has been some of the most entertaining cricket that you've ever seen over the last couple of, however long he's been in charge, the last year or so. So I don't think you can call it stupid.
I just no. I just think I think you can still play Test cricket plenty of other ways. Anyway, we'll see. Let's see after the Ashes when we smash them 4-0 in England. All right, Paul. It's getting late here. But so thanks everybody for
one last thing.
Yes.
One last thing I'd say is the time to play Bazball was the first innings of this match. That would have been interesting if we could have seen how the Aussies would have gone if they'd said, listen, this pitch is flat. It's not absolutely conducive to scoring at 8 and over, but go out there and really play with some aggression to the strengths of the pitch. Don't try to loft balls like the way that Travis Head got out and the way that Jadeja got out. Play aggressively, though. Then I reckon, I think Australia would be in a lot better position now than they are.
Yep. Well, thanks everybody for listening to our wrap up of day 4 from the 4th test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up day 5. Still all on the line. Australia are 88 runs behind with 10 wickets in hand. So India still have a chance of pulling off a victory if they can bowl Australia out. But really, it's the King Kohli's day. He ended his long century drought. So congratulations to Virat. What a player. 75 international tons for India. Truly fantastic.